You won't believe this. Jack made a priceless treasure out of a few pieces of steel. It's amazing. First, Jack stacked the steel pieces together and welded a bolt on the top to make them into a block of iron. Then he put it on a sandbag machine to polish it and trim the edges of the flaws. Then he put it in a furnace to heat it up and took it out when it was red hot and sprinkled borax on the surface. This can reduce the impurities in the forging of the knife. He put the iron block back in the furnace and waited for it to heat up again, and then took it out and used an air hammer to hammer and shape it. Then he used a steel brush to brush off the surface impurities and sprinkled borax on the surface again and heated it up again. He repeated the previous steps to improve the quality of the knife. He continued to use the air hammer to forge it, and soon it was shaped into a long strip. Then he drew a line on the surface and fixed it and used an angle grinder to cut it into 3 pieces. He continued to fix and weld them and heated them up again in the furnace. He continued to hammer them on the air hammer. The operation was the same as before, and soon it was hammered into the shape of a steel rod. He put it back in the furnace to heat it up, and then fixed it on a bench vise, and used a pipe wrench to clamp the top of the iron rod, and twisted it with all his strength. After brushing off all the surface impurities, he sprinkled borax on it, and continued to hammer it with the air hammer. At this point, he had determined the final shape of the steel piece. Then he measured out equal distances with a caliper and drew the shape of the knife on the surface. He used an angle grinder to cut off the excess part and polished it. After countless times of forging, the main shape of the knife finally appeared. He drilled holes on the surface with an electric drill and then put it back in the furnace to heat it up and then put it in oil to quench it. This can enhance its strength. Then he put it in an oven to heat it up at high temperature to reduce the stress of the knife body and prevent the knife from deforming and cracking. Next was the polishing operation. He polished the knife body directly and slowly improved the appearance of the knife body. Before long, the knife body was polished. Next, he needed to polish the blade. To make it sharper, he had to complete every step carefully so that the knife he made would be more exquisite. Then he put the knife body in a pickling solution to treat it. This can prevent oxidation and corrosion, and then used water sandpaper to polish the surface. It looked very beautiful at this time. Then he applied strong glue on the surface of the handle and glued the other half of the wooden handle. He fixed both ends with screws and waited for it to solidify completely, and then used a belt machine to polish the edges. Finally, he applied wood wax oil on the handle. After a series of operations, a delicate Damascus fruit knife was completed. How much do you think this knife is worth?